Guys, I'm going to tell you right now, this is probably going to be the biggest video I've ever made. The raw footage on this right now as I'm doing this voiceover is 94 gigabytes. But what I'm doing right now is I'm walking out. I got to go pick up Elliot Williamson's truck that he let me borrow because my wife's car was in the shop. And we are going to go over to FERRUM Forged Knife Works, and we're going to talk about all the stuff that they've got going on. So some of you guys may have noticed there's been kind of a shift in the knife industry, and knife companies and knife makers, knife designers, even us reviewers are starting to feel the pinch. And so we're going to talk with Elliot and see exactly what they've got going on over there, what their plan is moving forward. Elliot's got a lot of really good ideas. He's got a lot of really cool stuff that he's going to be doing. So just to give you an idea, we're going to spend the entire day talking with Elliot about what they've got going on. Now, little sneak peek, they are going to be re-releasing some super popular models that they had, and they are going to be based off of their current production models that they have in stock. And they are also going to be releasing some knives that have been around for a very long time that are going to be the mid-tech style. So that means that you guys are probably going to be able to get some of the knives that have not been on the market from FERRUM Forged Knife Works for years. So we'll get into that a little bit later with Elliot, but I'm here to tell you a lot of really cool ideas. We're going to talk about the process. We're going to look at what Chris does in the shop versus what Elliot does in the shop. We're going to look at the shop and how they've downsized from having a huge shop where basically they were making 200 knives a year to going back to the old school garage days. So I'm throwing my stuff in the truck right now. I'm going to take you guys with me. Hopefully this long intro that took an extremely long time to film is enjoyable for you guys. So let's go ahead and get ready to hop in this truck and start heading over to FERRUM Forged Knife Works. For what color did we come up with?
Oh, this managed to come out sort of pink.
Let me see.
That's not what we wanted at all.
It's not a hideous color though. Oh, and it's got that weird, oh yeah, it's got that weird opalescence to it where it's like different colors from different angles.
Yeah, I mean the idea.
Okay, yeah, I see the problem here.
Yeah,
I see the problem. So, well, actually, I didn't expect this, but Chris, can you explain to us what has occurred?
I have no freaking clue what has occurred here. That's why I'm taking it apart. So, I have destroyed power supplies. I have done things to power supplies that are honestly astounding, and this is a new one.
It just kind of did it on its own, huh?
Yeah. Well, you showed up, and it was like, oh, Mike's here.
Well, I mean, I do have a tendency to be the precipitating factor in things being destroyed. So we were filming some anodizing before we were going to do the actual like talking about what's going on with FERRUM Forged Knife Works. And Christopher's power supply just decided to not work with us. I mean, you saw he still got a color. I mean, it still technically was a success color if you want to say that it was anodized.
Yeah.
It's a color. It's not the color he was striving for. So
it does not match.
Not even in the slightest.
No.
All right, so we're over here. Yeah, he's messing with his microphone. I can edit that out. It's not a problem. We're at FERRUM Forged Knife Works. We were going to have Chris and Elliot talk together at the same time. And what happened was, well, you'll see that footage in a little bit. There was a problem. Christopher does the anodizing. Elliot does the other stuff that goes on. Christopher does some of it too, but as far as the carving stuff. But so while he's doing that, tell us what the plan forward is for FERRUM Forged Knife Works.
Well, Michael and audience, it's been a very interesting 2 years. 2 of the worst years we've ever had, actually, as a company. Like, shockingly bad. So, we're going to go back to doing what we used to do. And make stuff. And by make stuff, I mean, I've got parts for all kinds of different knives that we used to make. We have, like, graveyard parts that we can put into making new old knives.
So some of the older knives that you had around, like the Master Blaster, NTAC, please tell me there's an NTAC laying around that you're going to do a couple really cool NTACs.
I got a couple of parts for NTACs.
So it's one of my favorite knives ever.
Yeah, I mean, I've been going through all of our different parts bins, which we accumulated over the over the years, and boy, it's a lot of titanium in there. And yeah, there's a lot of stuff in there. So we're gonna make some stuff with our hands. It's gonna be great.
You guys are going to basically go back to doing some mid-techs here and there. You're still going to have your production stuff though, right? On the website.
It's only the inventory that we currently have. I have no projects currently running. And it doesn't look like I'm going to run any projects this year.
Okay.
Pretty much everything that I had designed that I wanted to do this year, I'm actually just going to shop it to whoever wants it.
Basically do it as design work as opposed to selling it in-house.
Yeah, because like I have royalty deals with a bunch of companies, and so I get to see their sales numbers as well as my sales numbers, and like the entire industry across the board is just way down. I mean, we're way more than 50% down. Everyone is, and so it's like, okay, instead of spending money that we don't have putting on new projects, let's just make cool stuff until we see an overall improvement in the economy.
So with that, and I already know the answer, but does that mean you're going to be doing a lot of hand-carved cool stuff?
A lot.
So the plan forward is you're going to have a lot of explain, because these are Maker's Choice, and there's a lot of folks on the channel that have never experienced the old school videos we used to do in the shop here. What is a Maker's Choice? I know a lot of people already know, but there's a lot of people that just don't know what a Maker's Choice is.
So I began my career as a custom knife maker. And when I say a custom knife maker, I mean, you would give me your craziest fucking idea, and then I would start scribbling it out on paper. And
sketch on napkin.
Sometimes it did start as a sketch on a napkin, that's true. And then it was crazy. Take pictures of my sketch pad and then paste it into an email and send it back. And so this would, getting to a point where I was even cutting material would take a month. It was a crazy way to do work. But
you were doing it like I did when I first started. When you taught me, you were doing it angle grinder, drawing it on a piece of steel, cutting it out by hand, drawing it out, not getting stuff water jetted. If you guys don't know this, Elliot's the one that taught me how to make knives and allowed me the pleasure of using his shop. So the Maker's Choice stuff is all basically just your standard knives, but with your personal flair.
See,
It's artistic outlet.
if I'm being very honest, right, before we had any of the kinds of equipment that we have now, right, I had to come up with ways to create finishes on knives, and like I didn't have a particularly good blast booth. I literally made it, and there's a lot of stuff that I made in the beginning, like first anodizing setup, made it myself. It was scary. It's really scary. Like, don't touch that part.
You can see Christopher's face. I'll get a shot of it for B-roll here a little bit later. But his face was just a look of sheer terror.
It was a little frightening in the garage back in those days.
A bunch of 9-volt batteries in series on a counter.
I did that one time. Yeah. There's crazy setups.
All right, so minor little technical thing. So what were you saying about custom knife maker and then into Maker's Choice? Artistic outlet.
So back in the day before I had super cool finishing equipment, and I had to kind of come up with ways to create finishes with really rudimentary tools, like Dremels, belt grinders that I made myself, like all kinds of just, gosh, I don't look back on those days with fondness. I had to be very strange and creative. And so it started morphing into, like, what could I do to titanium to make it look interesting and different? And then it sort of started where I was like, I wonder if I could make it look like a dragon scale or something else and stuff. Oh, this is before like I discovered other guys who carve titanium. And then once I saw people like Rudy Lala, and there's a couple other people that really do incredible work, and I went, oh shit, like this is a real thing. Then I started to find like metal sculptors and stuff like that I was really into. And then people used to ask us like, hey, I want you to do something cool on my knife, but I don't know what. It can just be like your choice. Like just do something. Like anything. Crazy shit. Whatever comes to your mind. And I'll be like, oh, so it'll be the maker's choice. And they're like, yeah, the maker's choice. And it just evolved really, really organically like that, where people were just asking me to do some weird shit to their knife. And then it started to get crazier and crazier and crazier. And then I started to get better and better and better at it.
I was gonna say, I've been around to see the evolution of like going from like you were already pretty good to going into like, holy crap, this is so much better than it was when he first started. That progression of, I mean, I've been hanging out with you guys for what, 10 years now?
Yeah, Mike.
Yeah, it's been about 10 years since the first time I ever came up to the shop, just about the time I started the YouTube channel.
Yeah, we're getting old.
Yeah,
real old. Right, and I also found the kinds of bits that I wanted to use that worked really well in different sizes that were cheap enough to where, because I go through them pretty rapidly.
dude, I just saw you dump one right now.
Yeah, there's $5. Bye. It's crazy. So, I mean, like, here's a great instance. So there was a run of knives that we did for Blade Junkie, right? Who's barely in the market anymore. We made like 25 of the oppressor model for him, and he just sent them back to me, 2 of them that he still had, and I just carved the shit out of them. And I didn't realize that was 10 years ago that we'd made those knives.
Yeah, I remember the oppressors. You had, those were...
Yes, it was really 10 years ago.
Those were...
I had to go back and look, because he posted it on Instagram, and I was like, 10 years? Went through my CAD sheets, and I'm like, oh shit, yeah, that was 10 years ago. Holy crap.
Well, I remember you still had some that you were still working on when I came, and you had just, that was about the same time you finished the run, just before you had just done the stuff with Ramon Chavez. That was just about that same time. You had just finished the oppressors, and then we're finishing up doing the ones for Ramon with that collaboration with Ramon Chavez.
And like, he actually texted me afterward. He's like, dude, he's like, you were already like making interesting stuff, but like this is next level. Like these things are fucking amazing. And I go, thank you. I appreciate that. You know, I've at this point carved hundreds of knives. I went to Greer, Switzerland, which is the where the H.R. Geiger Museum is.
Where the cheese is made?
And yes, where the cheese is also made. And it was really inspirational, and there's an entire room in that museum that's just inspired art. So people who were inspired by Giger and made their own shit. And like, it never dawned on me that things that I made would be like museum quality. Now, granted, it's a really funky museum. It's not like the Louvre or anything like that. But I had Chris like try and pull together all of the pictures of all of the like very Geigery looking knives that I've carved, and that ended up being a giant folder of pictures. And I was like, holy shit, like I've made a lot of knives this way.
Well, that's been some of my favorite knives you ever did, were the ones that were really the Geiger-esque xenomorph style.
It's I'm kind of a one-trick pony in that regard. It's definitely the thing that I'm the best at.
So NTAC was not just a
not just a clever acronym.
No. Because you guys don't know, so the NTAC is a smaller version, a like shrunk down version of the Mordax. And somebody told Elliot he was a no talent ass clown because he only knew how to make one knife, and it kind of stuck. It turned into the NTAC.
I'm good. Yeah, I am perfect. No talent ass clown. There we go. So nowadays, right, I have people sending back their older FERRUM forged knives. Like that's an original Fortis, the very first run of these that we made. And like, this is really challenging to make straight lines look organic on a knife. And I had another one that came in that I did. So I kind of have a way to do it. And then like, ooh, here's a really fun old one. That is our very first collaboration with Gavco.
That's the Gav what was that one called?
We just call it the Ffkw.
The Ffkw.
Yeah.
Yeah, the FERRUM Forge Gavco collab. It was the first one.
And like, I've never carved one of these, ever.
I always liked that one.
So that's going to be interesting.
That one in the Mako. They had a very similar line and feel to them.
And then I also got an AFY back. I think we only made like 20 or 30, 25 of these. So they're exceptionally rare. Claim of the Ffkw, there's only 25 of those in existence. And I've never carved one of these before. I've like textured one, never carved one fully. That'll be interesting. So that's the kind of stuff that we're going to do a lot more of this year. And Christopher's about to have another baby in April. And most of the equipment that's in this garage is going to end up going to my garage.
We're going to talk to Christopher in a minute about how he takes Elliot's designs and makes them pretty.
And so
you have a larger garage anyway.
Our Chris is bigger, but mine has less stuff in it.
And yours is just a big box.
Yeah, and I've already done the build out for all the workbenches, and I made all the workbenches 4 feet high. They're hilariously large.
They are comically tall.
Comically tall.
So the disembodied voice that you're really not hearing because we're using the mics. That's Chris is back here. Like I said, this was not optimal. I wanted to have a third microphone, but unfortunately, I could not borrow the setup, and I didn't have the splitter anyway. Christopher's right here.
Anyway,
I'll just get nice and cozy with you, Mike. It's no big deal.
We're blocking the B-roll camera.
I'm talking into Mike's titties right
you
now.
can't see the things that I can see.
Hey,
Ugh, guys.
I haven't had any time to spend with Chris for a long time.
Oh,
Yes, I do. I miss you guys. So I miss you guys a lot. I miss one of the things that people have commented on the channel and why we're here I'm here is because so many people have commented like, I miss the old shop videos. Like the just down and dirty, we're in the shop, and the filth that you guys are seeing right now is all the stuff on the workbench and all of that. Mental note, I got to take a video of all of that, so I put it in so I don't look like an idiot when I say you're seeing something you're not actually seeing, which I'm famous for. You guys know that. But
the best of us, Mike.
it's just one of those things, and the fun that always happened at the shop. It was always fun to be at the shop. There was always something that was afoot. Me irritating Christopher, Elliot helping me find new ways to irritate Christopher.
The brewery across
the street, which means there were a lot of things that I forgot to do when I was doing things. Like, oh yeah, that's right, I was supposed to do that before I did this. Well, I got to start all over.
That will happen.
It will happen. It will happen from time to time.
I can also say that this year, right, I have found all kinds of bizarre parts, like, because anytime we did a water jet run, I'd always just throw anything that I had even remotely come close to rendering, just threw it on there just to have parts to do prototyping with. So I found all kinds of strange things. Then I'm like, what the fuck was this? Might as well finish it and turn it into a real knife. So you're going to see some stuff. It's going to come out.
There was a lot of those things that got turned into, that were scrap, that were laying around, that got turned into my knives. Elliot was like, whatever, there's stuff over there, just so you can use whatever you want.
Let's get in there.
And I'd be like, what steel is this? And Elliot'd be like, oh, I don't know. And he'd put his tongue on it and he goes, I think that is D2. And I was like, great.
I actually did know what it was.
But there was a lot of times that I was like going into heat treat. I'm like, well, Elliot tasted it, but I mean, I'd go over to the table of knowledge and look at all the heat treat formulas, and I'd be like, well, he said that's what it is, so hopefully this is what it comes out at. So,
I mean, yeah, I do have there's a whole bin over there of just steel, just random steels. Most of it we were good and wrote on, so most of it I'm aware of what it is. There's only a few pieces where I'm like,
me and Bodiger chopped a piece of it off to use, and so the part that was written on no longer exists because it's been sold as Mike's Kiradashi or one of Bodiger's old who knows what's.
And believe it or not, like, you stare at enough steel and you start to kind of see the differences in their usually their scale from being rolled, because I buy all stuff that's already that's cold rolled, and so you're like, that one kind of looks like insert steel name.
Sometimes you can tell when you start doing a little bit of grinding too, like D2 is really famous. Really, you can see the grain structure if you're using a finer belt. You can see that there's some grain structure in there. and things like that. And if it's 20 CV, there's probably going to be some can and a bunch of impurities and a bunch of
You find
stuff like
some weird
that.
stuff
People are
on
like,
there.
I don't understand why they're going out of business. And I'm like, I made enough knives out of 20 CV that I do.
It's fun times. I've also come across a couple of little snippets of SM100. So
SM100, I made a handful of things out of some S125V.
yeah, there's a little plate of that around here too still.
So you can have it. People are like, oh, you make another knife out of S125V? Never.
Never.
Never. Never. Any steel that comes annealed at 55 Rockwell, you should just stay away from.
And that's going to cost you $100 in belts.
It's not the Rockwell. It's
The wear
The wear resistance. So I've actually made knives. So guys, you probably have seen it. And if you haven't, I'll put a link to a video up here somewhere where I show that I made a knife out of S125V that came out hard enough that I could score glass with it. I think it was 67, 68 with the heat. It was
that range.
And I want to put that in perspective that I definitely had to almost double the cost of that knife because, like he said, the first belt, no joke, you stand in front of the grinder, this is what like, eat,
And we're
now
done.
I was
Okay.
like, and I got to get a new belt.
When you can tell the difference sandblasting it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
What the? Okay.
So our friend Tino asked me if I could do a hand rub satin on the knife I did for him in S110 or S125E, and I was like, "There's not a chance that I'm doing that. There will be no way I'm polishing that. You're lucky if I'm even going to tumble it. I may just give it to you with forge scale on it.
It's coming to you the way that it is.
The way that it is." So we have to be a little bit more quiet. So the audio levels may be a little bit muted because Vivian is sleeping and we have to use our inside voices, and everyone knows
Those of
I'm
you
not
who
good at
don't
that.
know, Vivian is Christopher's daughter.
She's like 2.5.
Yeah.
So it's nappy time for her.
Nap
So
time.
okay, so how do you do your carving? And I know you're not going to do it right now, but I have some video. But explain, like, you have the most unique way of doing this because, like, you're a big dude. You use a regular Dremel, like a pencil.
And all the other guys I know who do this kind of carved shit on metal, they're all like, dude, how come you don't have a FERRUM? I go, I've held the FERRUM in my hand and it feels too small. Also, I've been using the Dremel 100.
2 speeds.
Like $20 now. Like, so when I burn them out, I don't feel bad about it. And I do.
Are they the 1 speed or the 2 speed? You used to use the 2
The
speeds.
single speed.
Because
I realized I never ever used it.
he used those bougie ones and then just kept burning them out, and they don't last any longer than the smaller ones.
Here we go. Okay, so this whole crazy process works usually with a bunch of scribbles. It just starts with scribbles.
Now
Now,
that's going to look cool.
those lines mean absolutely nothing to you people. They're just lines. But all of those lines represent like different cuts that I'm going to make. So like I know where there's like gouge out depth cuts.
It's almost like topography for you at this point. Like you know where you're going to be cutting deeper. And
Yeah, and it's only been, geez, when did I really start doing it? It's only been a decade. No big deal. But eventually you get to a place where, okay, so like on the back side of this one, like we've got scribbles, but those scribbles represent that.
yeah, I kind of showed you guys, but we only looked at one side of it. So that's what he's drawing, and it's going to turn into, that's going to look cool. And that's just the first stage too. Like that's like, there's so many steps that goes into.
That's the rough raw dog carve.
Yeah.
And then from here, it goes to Christopher. And then we talk about it most of the time, like if I had any colors in mind. Like this one in particular, the color scheme is going to be black and probably like a close to toxic green. And we'll figure out what parts we want to keep toxic green look and what parts are going to be black. A lot of it's going to end up being black.
Black's a good color with just a hint. Sometimes you can go too far with the over-the-top colors.
But once I've got a rough idea, then it's all about the Dremels. And so this is pretty my standard kind of bit setup. This is a 16th inch ball end mill. This is an 1/8 inch ball end mill. And then this is actually a 1/4 inch burr, ball burr, double cut as well.
That's the size burr that if you've got really big teeth, the dentist is going to use. Like, ah.
Get really in there. And like this makes lines. This makes
little lines?
no, it makes shape. And this is where, like, if I'm creating lots of three-dimensionality, I'll use this. If I got to remove a lot of material, the 1/8 inch one is the way to go. And then the burr bit, that's the one that does a lot of texture, because every single part of it's going to have some kind of texture to it. And it was actually Flavio Acoma that I gleaned the idea from. I never actually talked to the man, but I gleaned the idea that instead of trying to make perfect cuts with every tool that you have, that you just create the texture of what you're trying to create while you're actually carving it. So it's not multiple steps to create a specific look. You're creating the look the whole time with each different tool that you're making. And that's something that I think that's a mindset that has improved what I do a lot. Where even if I'm just cutting a straight line or a curved line in to create a line somewhere, I'm actually still going to create texture while I'm creating the line, if that makes any sense whatsoever. A lot of the stuff that I do, not a lot of people talk about it and how you do it. And like in the people that I know that do carve metal, titanium in particular, like we end up speaking in real generalities about it, because there's no school for this. They don't teach that shit in art school. I mean, I'm sure that there are like mechanized carving classes, and I actually watch and am subscribed to a lot of different artists. It's like if you go on the FERRUM Forge Instagram and you look at the people that we follow, it's basically knife makers, some jokes, and then like other artists. Like I'm always super jealous of people that get to sculpt like things you can add to, like clay sculptors. They have the easiest life ever. Oh, I fucked up. Let's just put more on.
Don't look at that part right there. Put some more on. We'll fix it.
But I don't get that option. So it's a crazy, crazy process.
It's like the difference between woodworking and metalworking. Like you can always attach another piece of wood. You can glue things together and veneer things. You can't do that with metal, really. You could go in and weld, I suppose, TIG weld spots and then go back over it, but that's a lot of work.
There's a dude that I follow, and I think he does like do knives and swords. And one of the techniques that he uses to make really, really interesting looking stuff is he actually uses a lot of welding, but then he goes back and carves the welded parts. And I don't know if for those of you who weld, have to grind out your less than perfect welds. Yeah, imagine trying to do that with a little burr bit. Ooh, fuck.
So those of you that don't weld, that's going to be the hardest part. The hardest part of the metal, it's going to be the hardest metal there is your welds.
It gets real fun to try it, because I've tried it. I had to.
So I just wanted to come back here so you guys can kind of see what it looks like on Elliot's workbench, because it's just an amalgamation of tools.
Oh God,
and
chaos.
It's controlled. It's controlled chaos. But this is what it always looks like when Elliot's got his set up for carving. There's markers that he'll get mad at and try to kill and throw across the shop. But he always has got like all of his stuff here, and it just looks insane to the normal person.
No, it is insane. I will agree. Even for me, it's insane.
Yeah, but this is just, I just want to kind of like, all of that happens in a space the size of your average table that a married couple before they have children has. It's just all in there.
Yeah, this is 4x4.
Yeah, it's small. And then Christopher has
Bigger than our first table.
Christopher has a section over here where he does a lot of the other stuff, because now we're going to take Elliot's microphone and we're going to talk to Christopher.
Lucky you.
So now we're going to move over to Christopher's role in this, because Elliot does the carving, but then you take his rough vision and refine it. It's kind of like with sword makers. The sword maker would make the sword, and then the sword polisher would find the underlying beauty in it.
To sort of bring out the life of the metals. Yeah. So it's, fortunately, with titanium, I do have a lot of flexibility in terms of coloring that I can do, and different textures, different colors, different voltages. There's a wide range of effect that I can do with color. So Elliot will give me a piece that's all carved up and everything, and I'll say, do you have a theme in mind? Do you have, you know, like an overall aesthetic sort of thing that you're looking for? And it might be something like, hey, you know, I want this to look like radioactive, you know, apocalyptic, you know, make this one look like organic, make this one look mechanical, things like that. And then I go, okay, I have my color options, my finish options, I have coatings, I have various things to make it feel alive, make it feel like there's something more to the knife than just pieces of metal. And to do that, I have a piece right here. Let's see, Elliot carved that. Told me he wanted a sort of geode type look, and I was like, you know what? We can definitely work with that. And that's a combination of coatings, anodizing, stencil work on the blade, tumbling. There's a lot of processes that go in there. I have my masking materials. I love my liquid tape and my silly putty.
That was a process of you finding what was good for a masking agent.
Oh, I went through a lot of things.
Yeah,
Do you remember when I did Play-Doh?
Yes, I remember when you tried Play-Doh.
And I baked it?
A lot of it was trying to figure out what would mask it, but then still tolerate the blast.
Yes,
and things like
that's
that.
the hardest part is, can it survive the blast booth? Can it survive going in a tumbler? And I had a lot of things that definitely did not. These ones do, depending.
I remember trying to figure out, all of us did, the different curing methods so that it wouldn't come off in the tumbler. What's the best way to get it to cure? Do you just let it air cure? Do you use the heat gun? Do you put it in the toaster oven?
I've done all of the above.
So we all did.
We've done, you know, solar drying outside, really, or UV curing, I guess you could call it. We've done heat gun, fire, the toaster oven, that oven.
We tried a lot of stuff. But I think that the best
on our butt cheeks did not work.
No, it did not. That was something I used to do with one specific customer's knives, though. Because I guarantee you got those knives like, why do I always get pink eye after Mike sharpens my knives? I didn't like him.
I miss you, Mike. Things that come out of Michael Emler's mouth are, I mean, poetic. Like, seriously poetic. Twisted. But you have a way with words, Mike.
I paint a picture. I think I found that the best method, like the thing that worked the best, like I tried heat gun, I tried toaster oven, I tried all that stuff, but just being patient enough to put the masking agent on and come back the next day wound up being like, you can't expedite it. It's just like, it never worked out. Like, oh, it feels like it's as dry as it did the day before, and then you put it in the tumbler and you're like, well, yeah, got to start all over again because it came right off.
Right.
There is that aspect of the finishing of knives is sometimes you have an idea, you have a plan, you're like, okay, sequence, so we're gonna do this, then this, then this, then this. Okay. And you get through step 2 and you go, oh, we're gonna have to pivot a little bit here. And sometimes, actually most of the time, you end up coming up with something even better than you thought, because you're like, you know, necessity is the mother of like, well, I want to get this specific part here to look like this, but it actually came out like this. This is so cool. Now I'm going to theme other parts of the knife based off of, you know, what would you call it, a Bob Ross? A happy little accident.
I was getting ready to say, necessity might be the mother of invention, but fuck-ups are its close distant cousin. Like her distant cousin. Like, it's in the family.
Yeah.
Nope, I made a mistake. I can fix that.
I can fix that.
Now, the question I have is, because we've already done this and we've talked about it, but like, explain what, because a lot of people get this, you talk about coatings and finishes, but what is the difference between an anodizing and a coating? And I know it's because you're adding something, but what is the actual anodizing and why do you get those brilliant colors? And I want them to hear it from someone other than me.
When we're talking about titanium anodizing, and specifically anodic oxidation is what we're going for.
We use the big word.
Oh,
That's
the
a
big
fancy
words.
one.
So with titanium, when you pass current through it, right, it creates an oxide layer on the surface. Now, titanium oxide is not colored. It doesn't have a color. It's transparent, but depending on the thickness of that oxide layer, it refracts light differently. So it will present a different color. Like I can get it to present blue, present bronze, present green, even though the metal itself isn't changing color. And that is all, it's part of the material. Whereas the coating that I use, it's a nano ceramic coating, and that gets applied with a similar process or pass current through it, pulls onto the workpiece, and then I have to cure that in an oven. And the nice thing about this coating that we found, because we went through a lot to try and find it, is it specifically cures at 350, which does not mess with tempers, and it doesn't affect the materials themselves. Whereas, because it's 350 for half an hour, if it was 350 for 2 hours, a little bit different, but by not heating up the materials so much, it allows me to minimize, if there's no warping that's going on. I'm not messing with tempers of blades. My titanium pieces aren't getting all bent out of shape and everything. It's just coating's on. And then that coating then inhibits the formation of oxide, so I can use that, and then I can get different anodizing colors and other aspects where there's not coating. So you see how it gets real complicated?
Yeah, real quick.
Where, I start stacking processes on top of processes and then circling back and repeating or doing something different. Wow, as I say it out loud now.
There was a lot. I learned as much from you about finishing a knife as I did from Elliot making a knife. Because
What was it?
unlike you guys, I didn't have the benefit of having a second person. I had to learn all of it myself, and it sucked.
Well, it kind of worked out organically because it came like right off the bat. I was like, ooh, I like this part of it. I'm drawn to this aspect of it. And like you always said, I could make colors with the anodizing thing. And I was like, how did you even get that color? Turn the knob. So it was really natural. Whereas like Elliot was doing the carving, really getting in there with his big monkey paws. And it was like, well, I can focus a little more on the color side, that sort of thing. And like we were both building all the knives, so building the knife was one thing, but then actually having a bit of specialization between the two of us, I think you see it play out in all the knives where it's a conversation. It's a creative conversation in its own way. He plants the seeds, makes the base, the foundation, and then I get to do the fun stuff.
Little bit less. It's not actually, I was getting ready to say the less dirty, but I've done it, and it's not any less dirty. It's very dirty.
But Elliot, like, you enjoy carving the knife. It's kind of your happy spot with knives. I enjoy coloring and doing stuff. It's my happy spot with the knives.
Sometimes it can be zen-like. Sometimes it can be deeply frustrating.
You guys didn't hear that, but he said sometimes it can be zen-like, and sometimes it can be deeply frustrating.
Deeply frustrating.
Deeply.
Like working with your brother.
What?
Who said that?
So, but yeah, so that's the stuff moving forward. Now I am going to still capture a bunch. I'm going to try and get a bunch of other stuff. So, and I got to get the overall shots of the shop. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to come up and.
So I fixed the power supply, so we can try another.
So we're gonna see we'll do another adventure with that here in just a minute, so you guys can see what anodizing looks like. So yeah, we'll just go over there instead of like completely shutting this down. We'll just go and record something there. So we've moved back to the anodizing station here, and so Christopher's gonna show us like the electro anodizing. So power supply and an electrolyte solution, and you're basically just passing voltage through it.
Basically. So in a lot of stuff you'll see people will put in a specific piece of metal as the anode. As cathode, I always get them mixed up. But this one, I just use an entire steel basin, so the entire thing
Yeah.
It increases my surface area. Obviously, you have to be careful not to touch the sides like operation. We learned how to do this as kids. So, turn this bad boy on. And we'll just start going up in voltage.
Ooh, there you go.
19, 20, 20, here we go, like a 30. Gets us a nice
like a
little
royal blue. Yeah.
Keep going. We can keep going through different blues. It gets a little bit lighter, a little bit lighter. All right, and then
You start getting into greens and stuff.
Greens.
Yeah. And then, so you basically, if you go through the spectrum twice, you're going to hit like blues again.
So here we're back to sort of a bronze. We're going to keep going.
We're going to get greenish bronze.
We're going to get to like a pinkish coming up. You can see it's starting to go a little bit. And eventually we'll get to a purple type of thing. Now we're up in really high voltages, so at this point to get brighter colors I need to do a chemical treatment to prepare the surface.
Yeah.
And my chemicals are not working real well today.
We were just talking about that before, Phil, but they're really temperature sensitive. A lot of the chemicals that you're going to use are temperature sensitive. They don't want to work when it's really cold or it's really warm, but that's basically it, that oxide layer. And it's basically the same, you and I talked about it, it's basically the same thing that you get with an oil spill on the surface of water. You get that dispersion of
the same way that the light bounces around and comes out differently.
Yeah, so you can see you've got a pretty cool, yeah, that's a nice blue on camera. On camera, it looks like really almost like you painted it. Yeah, like that. So you guys have no idea what you're doing. So we're going to end, and I just wanted to have you guys. So all of this stuff, you guys are selling it on your website, right? These aren't going to vendors. These are direct sales. So any of the stuff you guys are doing
on the website, keep an eye on, Instagram, and we do have a Twitter, which I will post to. Yes, all of that will be there. Instagram, it gets real bitchy about, I'm going to hit you in the dick.
I'm trying not to lose it back.
Both of you. Just got to be like a 1-2.
This is what everybody wanted to see. So yeah, so this stuff's all available. And then you said, so you're going to let me know when you start having designs coming out through other companies, right? And you're going to make sure that you try and get them to send them to me so we can see them on the channel, right?
Fine, Michael.
Okay. So thanks for doing this. I know that this was very time consuming. I took a lot of your day, but I just wanted to do this so everybody could see what's going on with FERRUM Forge, because I get asked all the time what's going on with
Forge guys.
Well, thank you for coming and recording. Because we haven't done it ourselves.
Yeah.
We talk about it all the time. We should probably make like a video or something.
Like a video or something. And then the kid wakes up and then
it just goes right to shit.
I did it so you guys can then just, when I post it, you guys can then just share a link to it on your social media.
Yeah, absolutely.
There you go. And that way everybody sees it.
We do. We like links. Check my links, bro.
Links, man.
Yeah. So, all right, guys. Well, I will film an outro for this when I get home, and eventually
did you actually
get all this
start the
edited.
OnlyFans?
Is it OnlyFans?
No comment.
I don't have the microphone on, but Christopher. Oh, yep. There's the turtle enclosure, and the turtle is scared. There it is. Turtle enclosure in Christopher's backyard. That's perfect. It's perfect. And this is just establishing shots and stuff like that.
Ready?
Yeah. Sparkly, sparkly.
Whoa. That was weird.
Huh. So a little bit of B-roll here. Christopher thought he fried the power supply. But now have you established a coating of oxide at a higher voltage that now is not allowing you to hit the color range you want?
I'm not gonna lie. I have no clue right now because I might have killed my machine.
Well, there definitely was voltage because I saw sparks.
Oh yeah. Oh, it sparked.
What color did you wind up with?
Oh, let's go dry
It's
it
not
off.
a bad color. This is footage you're going to see at the end of the video. We're going to...
Well, it came out a little more pinky than I wanted.
it's not horrible. I've definitely seen uglier colors.
But does it match? That's the important.
For what color did we come up with?
Oh, this managed to come out sort of pink.
Let me see.
That's not what we wanted at all.
It's not a hideous color, though. Oh, and it's got that weird... Oh, yeah, it's got that weird opalescence to it where it's like different colors from different angles.
Yeah, I mean, the idea...
Okay, yeah, I see the problem here.
Yeah.
I see the problem here. Yeah, that's not a match for that at all. It is it's not an unattractive color, I'm going to say. There you go. Take your now the problem is you don't have a power supply now. I shouldn't laugh. I'm sorry.